Ladies and gentlemen, there was a time when I believed my life was over. I thought my failures, my wounds, and my broken dreams had sealed my fate. I looked at myself and saw nothing but scars, proof of everything that had gone wrong. But let me tell you something, scars are not the end of the story. They are the beginning of a new one. You see, life is like a blank canvas. No matter how many dark strokes the past has painted, you have the power to create a masterpiece from this moment forward. Let me ask you, have you ever felt trapped by your past? Have you ever thought, this is just the way things are for me? If you have, then this speech is for you. Because today I am going to tell you why your past is not your prison. It is your preparation. And if you truly understand this, your life will never be the same again. Your past is a chapter, not the whole story. Life is like a book, and every experience you go through adds a page to it. Some pages are filled with joy and success, while others carry pain and setbacks. But no matter how dark certain chapters may be, they do not determine how your story will end. Too often, people allow themselves to be defined by what has already happened, believing that their past failures, mistakes, or circumstances have permanently shaped their future. However, this belief is one of the biggest obstacles to personal growth and transformation. Think about a book you have read. Have you ever judged the entire story by a single chapter? Of course not. You continue reading, knowing that twists and turns are ahead, that characters will develop, and that circumstances will change. The same applies to life. You are not bound to remain the person you were in the past. Every single day is a fresh opportunity to turn the page and create something new. No matter how painful or difficult previous experiences were, they do not have the power to define who you are unless you allow them to. Many people carry the weight of their past like an unshakable burden. They replay mistakes in their minds, holding on to regrets that keep them stuck in a cycle of self-doubt. They convince themselves that because they have failed before, they will fail again. Because they were hurt before, they will always be hurt. Because they made poor decisions, they are incapable of making better ones. But this is not the truth. The truth is that growth is a process, and no one is meant to stay the same forever. Imagine a seed buried in the dirt. At first, it is unseen, unnoticed, and seemingly lifeless. But within that seed, there is potential to grow, to break through the ground, and to become something far greater than anyone could have imagined. That seed is no different from you. Your past may have buried you under doubt, pain, and setbacks, but that does not mean you will remain there forever. You have the ability to rise, to push through, and to reach heights you never thought possible. The problem is that many people become so attached to their past that they refuse to believe in the possibility of change. They let old labels define them, labels given by society, by their circumstances, or even by their own inner critic. They say, I am just not good enough, or I will never succeed, without realizing that these are not facts, they are beliefs. And beliefs can be changed. The only thing standing between you and the future you desire is the decision to see yourself differently. Consider the stories of some of the most successful people in the world. Many of them had incredibly difficult pasts. They experienced failures, rejection, and adversity that could have easily broken them. But what set them apart was their refusal to let their past define them. They understood that failure is not final, that struggles are temporary, and that setbacks are simply setups for comebacks. They rewrote their stories because they chose to believe in their future more than they believed in their past. Your life is constantly evolving. Who you were 5 years ago is not who you are today, and who you are today is not who you will be 5 years from now. Growth is inevitable, but only if you allow yourself to embrace it. Instead of dwelling on past mistakes, learn from them. Instead of holding on to old pain, use it as fuel to move forward. Instead of believing that your past failures mean you are destined to fail again, remind yourself that each failure is just a lesson preparing you for something greater. People often look at their past as a limitation, but what if you started seeing it as a source of strength? What if, instead of being ashamed of your struggles, you embraced them as proof of your resilience? What if, instead of letting the past weigh you down, you used it as a reminder of how far you have come? When you change the way you see your past, you change the way you see your future. You are the author of your own story. No matter what has happened before, you have the power to write the next chapter. The pen is in your hands, and the possibilities are endless. The only question is, will you let the past hold you back, or will you use it as motivation to move forward? Your failures are lessons, not life sentences. Every person on this planet has experienced failure in some form. It is an inevitable part of life, and yet, so many people allow their failures to define them rather than refine them. The moment you begin to see failure as a teacher instead of a punishment, everything changes. Society often conditions us to believe that failure is something to be ashamed of, something that marks the end of a journey. But in reality, failure is not the end. It is simply a stepping stone toward growth. Consider the first time a child learns to walk. They stumble, they fall, they cry. But what happens next? They try again, and again, and again. No one tells them you fell once, so you will never walk. No one labels them as failures because they couldn't take a step without falling. Instead, they are encouraged to keep trying until one day they take their first successful steps. The same principle applies to life. Yet, as we grow older, we forget the simple truth. We fail at something, and instead of seeing it as part of the learning process, we label ourselves as incapable. Failure is not a reflection of your worth. It does not mean you are not good enough, smart enough, or talented enough. It simply means you tried something that didn't work this time. Some of the most successful people in the world have failed more times than most can count. They have faced rejection, disappointment, and obstacles that would make others quit. But they did not let those failures define their potential. Instead, they studied their failures, learned from them, and used that knowledge to improve. Think of Thomas Edison, who failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. When asked about his repeated failures, he did not see them as defeats. Instead, he said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This mindset is what separates those who achieve greatness from those who remain stuck in the fear of failure. It is not the failure itself that holds people back, it is the way they interpret it. When you see failure as a lesson, you extract wisdom from it, you identify what went wrong, make adjustments, and come back stronger. The fear of failure often keeps people from even trying. They convince themselves that it is better to stay in their comfort zone than to take a risk and potentially fail. But the truth is, avoiding failure does not protect you, it limits you. The greatest regrets in life are not the moments when you failed, but the moments when you didn't even try. Every time you hold yourself back because of the fear of failure, you deny yourself the opportunity to grow. Failure builds resilience. It teaches you how to navigate setbacks, how to adapt, and how to push through challenges. When you face failure head-on, you develop a strength that cannot be taught in any classroom. You learn to trust yourself, to believe in your ability to rise no matter how many times you fall. This is why those who embrace failure as part of the process ultimately achieve more in life. They understand that failure is temporary, but the lessons it provides are invaluable. Think of the people you admire, the ones who have accomplished great things. They did not get there without struggle. They did not reach success without encountering failure. The difference is they did not stop. They did not allow their failures to dictate their future. They used every setback as a setup for a comeback. Reframing failure requires a shift in perspective. Instead of saying, "I failed," start saying, "I learned." Instead of believing that failure means you are not capable, remind yourself that failure is simply proof that you are trying. Every time you fail, you are gaining experience, wisdom, and insight that will serve you in the future. Think about the most successful businesses, inventions, and breakthroughs. They did not come from people who got everything right the first time. They came from people who failed, adapted, and kept going. If those individuals had given up after their first failure, the world would not have some of its greatest achievements. Failure humbles you, but it also empowers you. It reminds you that you are human, that growth comes from struggle, and that perseverance is the key to success. Every failure carries a lesson, and those lessons shape you into someone stronger, wiser, and more capable than before. When you stop fearing failure and start embracing it as part of your journey, you open yourself up to possibilities you never imagined. Your circumstances do not determine your potential. Too often, people believe that where they come from, what they have been through, or the challenges they face will forever dictate how far they can go in life. They convince themselves that because they were born into struggle, they will always struggle. Because they have faced setbacks, they will always be behind. Because they lack certain resources, they can never achieve great things. But the truth is, your circumstances are not a reflection of your potential. They are simply a starting point. Some of the most inspiring success stories come from people who started with nothing, people who faced adversity, poverty, rejection, and pain, yet refused to let those things define them. They understood that while they could not control the circumstances they were born into, they had complete control over how they responded to them. They did not let their struggles become excuses. Instead, they used them as fuel to push forward, to prove to themselves and the world that they were capable of more. History is filled with examples of individuals who defied their circumstances. Think of those who grew up in poverty yet built empires. Think of those who faced rejection repeatedly yet became world-renowned in their fields. Think of those who were told they would never amount to anything yet went on to change the world. They did not allow their circumstances to dictate their future. They saw their struggles as stepping stones rather than roadblocks. The problem is that many people become trapped in a mindset that convinces them they are powerless. They look at their surroundings, their past experiences, or their limitations, and believe that these things have already determined their fate. They adopt a victim mentality, thinking this is just the way things are for me, instead of asking, what can I do to change my situation? The moment you shift your mindset from feeling powerless to realizing your own potential, everything changes. Circumstances are temporary. Where you are today is not where you have to stay. The fact that you have struggled does not mean you are destined to struggle forever. The fact that you have lacked resources does not mean you will never have them. Life is constantly changing, and so are you. The key is to recognize that your current situation is not a prison, it is just a phase. And phases pass. There are people who have faced unimaginable hardships, loss, betrayal, financial ruin, physical limitations, yet they have risen above them. Not because their circumstances magically improved overnight, but because they refused to let those circumstances break them. They made the decision to push forward even when the odds were against them. They found ways to create opportunities instead of waiting for them. They focused on what they could do instead of what they could not. Excuses will always be available, but so will opportunities. It is easy to say, I can't do this because of my past, or I will never succeed because I don't have the right connections. But the truth is, every single person who has achieved something great has had to overcome obstacles. The difference is that they chose to see possibilities where others saw limitations. They chose to take action instead of waiting for someone else to change their circumstances for them. You are not your past. You are not your environment. You are not the hardships you have faced. You are the choices you make every single day. You are the mindset you cultivate, the resilience you develop, and the belief you have in yourself. Your circumstances can only hold you back if you allow them to. If you choose to rise above them, there is no limit to what you can achieve. When you look at successful people, do not assume they had it easy. Do not assume they were simply lucky. Look deeper, and you will see their struggles, their sacrifices, their moments of doubt. What set them apart was not an easy path, but an unshakable determination to keep going no matter what. No matter where you come from, no matter what has happened to you, no matter what obstacles are in your way, your potential remains limitless. The only question is whether you will choose to embrace it. Pain and setbacks are not punishments, they are preparation for something greater. Many people go through life believing that the struggles they face are signs that they are not meant for success or happiness. They think that because they have been through heartbreak, failure, loss, or rejection, life is somehow against them. But what if the pain you have endured is not meant to break you but to build you? What if every difficult experience is shaping you into the person you are meant to become? Pain has a way of transforming people. It strips away the illusions of comfort, forces people to confront their deepest fears, and reveals strength they never knew they had. It teaches lessons that no success ever could. When everything is easy, there is no reason to grow, no reason to push beyond what feels comfortable. But when life challenges you, when it forces you to your knees, that is when you discover who you truly are. Every person who has ever achieved something great has faced immense struggles. They have been rejected, doubted, and knocked down. They have faced moments where they questioned everything, moments where they felt like giving up. But they didn't. They allowed their pain to refine them instead of define them. They chose to see their struggles as preparation, as lessons that would serve them in the future. There is a misconception that life is supposed to be fair, that if you work hard and do the right thing, everything should fall into place. But life does not work that way. Life will test you. It will throw obstacles in your path, not to discourage you, but to strengthen you. Every challenge is an opportunity to prove to yourself that you are stronger than your circumstances. Think of the most resilient people you know. They are not the ones who have had an easy life. They are the ones who have endured pain and refused to let it turn them bitter. They are the ones who have faced loss but still found a way to keep going. They are the ones who have been rejected but never stopped believing in themselves. Their strength was not given to them, it was built through their struggles. Pain is temporary, but the lessons it teaches last forever. When you go through hardship, you gain wisdom. You learn to appreciate things more deeply. You develop empathy for others who are struggling. You become more aware of what truly matters. The things that once seemed important fade away, and you begin to see life with a new perspective. Some of the greatest innovations, the most powerful movements, and the most inspiring stories have been born out of struggle. The pain that once seemed unbearable became the fuel that pushed people to create, to inspire, to change the world. They used their suffering as motivation to build something greater, to prove that their pain was not in vain. Pain forces growth. It pushes you beyond what you thought you were capable of. It teaches you resilience, patience, and determination. It removes the fear of failure because once you have been through the worst, nothing else seems as terrifying. The strongest people are not those who have never suffered, but those who have suffered and still found the courage to rise again. The way you respond to pain determines what it becomes. If you let it consume you, it will destroy you. If you use it as fuel, it will propel you forward. You cannot always control what happens to you, but you can control how you react to it. You can choose to see pain as a burden, or you can choose to see it as preparation. Your pain is not pointless. Every hardship, every disappointment, every failure is shaping you into the person you are meant to be. It is preparing you for opportunities you cannot yet see. It is strengthening you for challenges you have yet to face. It is teaching you the lessons you will need to succeed. Life is unpredictable. It will test you in ways you never expected. But every challenge carries a lesson, every setback carries an opportunity, and every pain carries the potential for growth. The struggles you have endured are not there to define you, they are there to prepare you for something greater. Your mindset determines your future more than your past ever could. People often believe that their experiences, upbringing, or failures have already shaped who they are, leaving little room for change. They convince themselves that their story is already written, that the things they have gone through dictate how their life will unfold. But the truth is, it is not your past that holds power over you, it is the way you think about your past. Your mindset is the most powerful force in your life. It can either keep you trapped in old patterns or open the door to limitless possibilities. Many people remain stuck not because they are incapable of growth, but because they have convinced themselves that they cannot change. They replay their mistakes over and over again, allowing guilt and regret to weigh them down. They let past failures define them, believing that because they did not succeed before, they never will. They see obstacles and challenges as proof that they are not meant for success, rather than as opportunities to grow. This kind of thinking creates a cycle that keeps them in the same place, making them feel powerless over their own lives. The most successful and fulfilled people are not those who never face difficulties. They are the ones who chose to break free from limiting beliefs. They understood that their past experiences were not a life sentence but a lesson. They took control of their thoughts, trained their minds to see possibilities instead of limitations, and refused to let failure convince them that they were incapable of achieving more. They did not let their past define them because they knew that the future is shaped by the actions they take today. Changing your mindset is not about ignoring the past or pretending challenges do not exist. It is about shifting your perspective. Instead of seeing yourself as a victim of your circumstances, you must see yourself as the creator of your future. Instead of dwelling on mistakes, you must focus on the lessons they taught you. Instead of fearing failure, you must recognize it as a stepping stone to success. Every thought you allow into your mind influences your actions, and your actions shape your life. If you continue to tell yourself that you are limited by your past, you will never move forward. But if you tell yourself that you have the power to grow, learn, and change, you will find opportunities where others see dead ends. Your mind is your greatest tool. It can be a source of motivation or a source of self-doubt. It can push you to chase your dreams or convince you to settle for less. The way you talk to yourself matters. If you constantly remind yourself of your failures, you will struggle to take risks. If you keep telling yourself that you are not good enough, you will hesitate to pursue your goals. But if you fill your mind with thoughts of resilience, hope, and determination, you will find the courage to keep going, even when things seem impossible. One of the most important shifts in mindset is moving from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. A fixed mindset tells you that your abilities are set in stone, that you are either talented or you are not, that success is only for those who are naturally gifted. A growth mindset, on the other hand, recognizes that skills, intelligence, and success are built through effort, perseverance, and learning. When you adopt a growth mindset, you begin to see failures as opportunities to improve. You stop fearing challenges because you understand that they help you become stronger. You stop comparing yourself to others and start focusing on your own journey. Your past is filled with experiences, but it does not hold the final say in who you become. You are not defined by the mistakes you made, the failures you encountered, or the hardships you endured. You are defined by the choices you make moving forward. You can decide to carry the weight of the past on your shoulders, letting it slow you down, or you can decide to use it as fuel to move ahead. You can choose to hold on to old pain, or you can choose to let it go and create space for something new. People who change their lives do so because they change their mindset first. They start believing that their past does not have to dictate their future. They take responsibility for their thoughts, their emotions, and their actions. They choose to focus on what they can control instead of what they cannot. They build habits that support their goals, surround themselves with people who uplift them, and commit to learning and growing every day. They do not let fear of failure stop them because they understand that every setback is a setup for a greater comeback. The greatest transformations in life begin in the mind. When you shift the way you think, everything else follows. Your mindset determines the risks you take, the goals you set, the way you handle obstacles, and the way you see yourself. It determines whether you stay trapped in the past or step boldly into the future. Your thoughts shape your reality. If you believe you are stuck, you will stay stuck. If you believe you are capable of change, you will find a way to grow. Your past may have influenced you, but it does not have to control you. The future is still unwritten, and the power to shape it is in your hands. Every single day is an opportunity to start over, no matter how much pain you have endured, how many mistakes you have made, or how many times you have failed, you have the power to begin again. Too often, people feel trapped by their past, believing that their history dictates their future. They tell themselves that because they have struggled, because they have faced rejection, because they have lost, they are destined to remain in the same place. But that is not true. Life is constantly changing, and so are you. The person you were yesterday does not have to be the person you are tomorrow. You have the ability to rewrite your story at any moment. Many people hesitate to start over because they fear judgment. They worry about what others will think if they change their path, if they chase a new dream, if they let go of what is no longer serving them. They convince themselves that they have already wasted too much time, that it is too late, that they are too old, too broken, or too far gone. But those are just excuses created by fear and self-doubt. The truth is, no one is watching you as closely as you think. The world is not keeping track of your failures. People are too focused on their own lives to dwell on yours. And even if they do judge you, their opinions do not shape your future, your actions do. Starting over does not mean forgetting everything that came before. It does not mean pretending that your past does not exist. It means taking the lessons you have learned and using them to create something new. It means looking at where you have been and choosing to move forward with more wisdom, more strength, and more clarity. It means recognizing that just because things have been a certain way does not mean they have to stay that way. Think of nature. The seasons change, the trees shed their leaves, the flowers bloom again after the harshest winters. Nature does not resist change, it embraces it. And just like nature, you are meant to evolve. You are not meant to stay the same person forever. Growth requires change. Sometimes that change is painful. Sometimes it requires letting go of things that once felt comfortable. Sometimes it means walking away from situations, relationships, or mindsets that no longer align with who you want to become. But change is necessary. It is how you step into the next version of yourself. Fear of the unknown is one of the biggest reasons people resist starting over. The idea of leaving behind what is familiar, even if it is painful, can be terrifying. But what if the unknown holds something better? What if the future you are afraid to step into is the one where you finally find peace, happiness, and purpose? What if the life you have been dreaming of is waiting for you on the other side of your fear? The only way to find out is to take that first step. Starting over is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of strength. It takes courage to admit when something is no longer working. It takes bravery to walk away from a path that is not leading where you want to go. It takes resilience to rebuild after life has knocked you down. The people who create the most meaningful lives are not the ones who never had to start over. They are the ones who started over again and again, refusing to give up on themselves, refusing to accept a life that did not align with their dreams. Some of the most successful, inspiring people in the world have had to start over multiple times. They have failed, they have lost everything, they have faced rejection, but they did not let those setbacks define them. They chose to get back up. They chose to learn from their mistakes. They chose to believe in themselves, even when no one else did. They understood that the only way to truly fail is to stop trying. As long as you are willing to keep moving forward, as long as you are willing to keep learning, you have not failed. Letting go of the past is one of the hardest things to do, but it is also one of the most freeing. Holding on to regrets, shame, or resentment only weighs you down. It keeps you stuck in a cycle of pain and prevents you from seeing the possibilities ahead of you. You cannot change what has already happened, but you can decide how you move forward. You can choose to forgive yourself. You can choose to release the things that no longer serve you. You can choose to step into the future with hope instead of fear. Every day you are given a fresh start. Every sunrise is a reminder that you have another chance to create the life you want. No matter how lost you feel, no matter how many times you have fallen, no matter how impossible things seem, you always have the ability to begin again. You do not have to wait for the perfect moment. You do not need permission from anyone. You do not need to have everything figured out. You just need to take one step, then another, then another. Before you know it, you will have built something new, something beautiful, something that reflects the person you are becoming. You are not your past. You are not your mistakes. You are not your failures. You are the person who has survived all of those things. You are the person who has the power to start over, to grow, to change, to create a future that is even better than you imagined. Your past may have shaped you, but it does not have to define you. Every moment is an opportunity to choose differently, to rewrite your story, to step into the life you deserve.